Hello and welcome to this presentation about enhanced growth and managed risk through digital supply chain transformation. I'm Kaushik Sivakumar, a Director of Product Strategy SCM at Oracle. And I will be speaking to three broad topics today as it pertains to that subject of enhancing growth and eliminating risk, especially for project-based companies. The three themes are what makes project-based enterprises unique and the risks that are associated with that. Next, we'll review how Oracle's project solution can address these challenges. And lastly, I'll leave you with a quick look at our customer success and our roadmap. Okay, so let's start with an interesting statistic. This was produced by TR Cutler Inc. on manufacturers that produce very unique products to meet the customer specs. As of 2020, when this report was published, 50% of the manufacturers, as per the report, would qualify as custom manufacturers, as opposed to being repetitive. Now, manufacturing is just one piece of the pie. If you also consider asset-intensive companies, there is a clear need to better manage what I would term servitized supply chains, where a company provides a solution to a customer and not just a product. It is in this context that an integrated project-driven supply chain solution becomes quite relevant. All right, some unique considerations for project-based enterprises. Now, if your business is doing projects, it is very different than doing projects in your business. You need to pay attention or close attention to three specific aspects: engaging with your customers, which is the first step to the success, a flawless planning and execution of your project, as well as making sure that your project financials are timely and accurate. Now, that takes a lot of coordination end to end. Let me give you a few examples here. Taking customer engagement. Your customer is typically engaged during the entire design or even during manufacturing. For instance, they might be engaged with you during product design. They might even do a co-design. You may have to have contractual obligations worked out with your customer. There might be some mid-build testing and approval before you can actually proceed further, right? Now, from the execution standpoint, there has to be a management of a project, which is very different as opposed to an assembly line kind of a manufacturing. Now, you might have to track all your processing, whether it's manufacturing inventory processes separately by a customer or a campaign that you might be running, or even a special order for a customer, right? And finally, from a project finance perspective, your billing or your revenue recognition, to give an example, may not quite follow a shipment, and it often requires completion of other performance obligations before you can actually bill a customer or before you actually can recognize revenue. All right. Now let's see how operating efficiency directly impacts financial performance. So obviously we have set the context of why our project enterprise is unique. Now let's talk about what level of efficiency you need to drive impact of financials. Now, there's usually a very high degree of risk associated with custom work. The Project Management Institute in their 2018 analysis reported that there's a significant gap, as you can see in the slide here, in KPIs, which are essential KPIs for any project-based companies, between what they call low and high maturity companies. It's almost a 30% difference in most metrics, as you can see it. And as you can also see from the statistic, the average waste across industries is anywhere from 7% to 12%. It's about 10% of the project budget. Now, that's very significant. Right? So, do you have the right tool for the job? So when it comes to can I be operationally efficient? It comes down to whether you're equipped to handle these complexities. One of the common traits of any low maturity company is that they don't have the right tools for the job. Now, to be able to scale to a high maturity, you need an enterprise-grade system that's integrated, easy to use, and that can support a spectrum of project types and diversity of business needs, which is what we'll talk about in a few slides to follow. An integrated project-driven supply chain solution will benefit sales, project management, design and engineering, manufacturing, operations, logistics, finance, and net is that it results in improved operational efficiency and company profitability. So project-driven supply chain, as I noted previously, is about delivering solutions and not just products. So as I said, when you design for specific customers or specific projects, the supply chain is quite very different from those typical manufacturing modes, right? In the context of Oracle's project-driven supply chain solution, that's where this capability is being met, because it addresses the end-to-end capabilities and features and function that you need between supply chain management and ERP applications. that provides a complete solution to address all three pillars that we talked about for a project enterprise: customer engagement, planning and execution, and financials. Now, this solution is designed to support those business processes of manufacturing and asset-intensive companies that require supply chain to work in the context of a project. Examples could be a telecom network build-out and maintenance, or in the manufacturing side, a high-tech or industrial turnkey installation, or delivering complex products and services which are very unique to customer requirements. All these are examples of project-driven supply chain needs, which are going to be very different to typical manufacturing. Now, let's see what this slide is trying to emphasize to you is how Oracle's project solution for a project-based enterprise aligns the strategic enterprise project planning with execution and delivery. And let's review them briefly, each of these swim lanes out here. In the first box, and I'm going to highlight it here, right? There is an out-of-the-box integration between EPM project planning and ERP project management that helps companies benefit from a closed-loop project planning process. Next, for companies that are introducing new products using, say, a PLM process, Projects Cloud is integrated with Oracle Product Development Cloud, as well as Innovation Management Cloud, enabling customers to innovate, develop, and commercial best products that might meet the customer requirements. Now, in the context of that, is also sourcing. You can actually negotiate with your suppliers in the context of a project. In the middle, you see project-driven supply chain, which is what we're going to dive deeper into. Now, we'll review this more in the next few slides to follow. But moving on to capital project management. So again, it's in the context of project asset management, it's about the full life cycle of capital projects. When you're actually accumulating costs to build a fixed asset, either for yourself or to your customer, all of the installation and acquisition that is related to it, all of the cost capture, the allocations, as well as any adjustments to costs that you may have to happen. Now, in a lot of times in certain types of industries, you may have grants that come into play. So grants management is, again, tightly integrated with the rest of the transaction flows to track and gain visibility against award-funded projects, right? Now, again, these are just some examples of how the integration plays out within the Oracle suite of products. The result is that there is a single enterprise project cloud solution which delivers a complete picture for your organization's finances and operations. All right, now we're going to get into, like I said, in the middle section of project-driven supply chain. Let's get into more details and review some key capabilities of PDSC, right? Now, project-driven supply chain, which is what I'm going to acronym as PDSC, is meant for project-based enterprises where all activities of supply chain, including planning, order management, procurement, materials management, manufacturing, sales and service, are all separated or segregated by a specific project. Now, what this ensures is an end-to-end integrity of supply and their associated costs. Now, let's go each section at a time. So talk to planning. With attribute-based planning, you can define flexible netting rules to plan project-based supplies. Now, the demand may be netted at a project-to-task level, or could even be for a group of projects, and that helps you optimize your inventory and not over-order things, right? Now, we also have features like project transfers, which let you reallocate supplies between projects where there could be an excess to a project where there might be a shortage. Segregated inventory management, right? Now, project-specific execution often requires that your inventory process is all completely segregated by a project. Now, this doesn't mean that you have to set up new organizations for project or new sub-inventories. You're basically, having an ability in the system to keep your projects within your current setup. And the same organization can be both having project inventory and non-project inventory at the same time, right? So whether it's on hand, receiving, picking, shipping, reservations, allocations, all managed by a project. Next, project-based orders. Whether it's sales orders, transfer orders, move transactions, purchasing documents like requisitions, work orders of maintenance and manufacturing can all be project stripe. And that lets you collect the cost, which goes to the next point about streamlined operations, which is to get your work order processing or your service processing in the context of a project. Now, all of what this gives you is real-time visibility into your project costs. So which means all the costs that happens through the course of these activities are captured as project expenditures and can be billed based on your project rules that you've set up in the project contract. Now, like I mentioned before, a project striped organization can also simultaneously support non-project striped material and processes, further enhancing your flexibility. You can also execute project-driven supply chain without the project financials, meaning you can just use it for segregating inventory and supplies and demand. Now, the next two slides, we're going to look at a typical flow. And in this case, it's a typical flow for a project manufacturing billable project flow. In a project manufacturing industry, the flow really starts generally with a quote that's accepted by the customer. Now, the quote identifies the schedule, the prices of the goods and services to be delivered to the customer. The quote may also be having bids from suppliers that will support the project, right? So eventually, these bids will become cost of the project. Now, based on the quote, you create a project which has the activity breakdown, which is what we call as tasks, right? And then you determine the delivery schedule for the project, associate any material requirements against the schedule, and this becomes the basis for your forecast demand to plan your supply for components and end products, right? Now, based on the plan, you execute your supply chain, which is all in the context of a project again. It's a typical flow that we support today, and it's done in the context of a project, right? That results in procurement, or it could be production of new items, which ultimately then get picked and shipped to the customer. Now, when you ship to the customer, your invoices may be generated in projects, not through a standard auto integration of AR. And that could be based on completion of other performance obligations like installations and customer acceptance and so on and so forth, or any other agreed upon method, right? And revenue could be recognized based on your rules that apply to the enterprise. Now, like I said earlier, you capture the supply chain cost of material procurement for transfers, for production, as project costs, and revenue comes from invoices that are generated for the project or could be decoupled from it, right? Now, looking at another use case here, which is a plan to commission flow for building an asset, which is where you're actually building an asset as opposed to executing a billable project. You can also use project-driven supply chain in the asset-intensive context, right? For example, building a cellular network or building a gas pipeline, and while confirming to the budgets and schedule for your corporate plan, right? Now, the process here starts with a plan to build the asset, and then all the other flows that we described previously would apply. And based on the plan, the project is initiated, the material is planned and procured to the project schedule, and the asset is built. The difference here is the build out of the asset and the capitalization process in the back end as opposed to billing and revenue recognition, right? This is just to emphasize the various flavors of the flows that we can actually support within the same system. Okay, now looking at customer adoption. So it's been a couple of years since this solution has been generally available. And as of last quarter, we have about 150 customers live with the solution, which you can see is a diverse set of customers across different industries. These include manufacturing customers, high-tech and CPG, such as General Dynamics Mission Systems, Ballard Power, Harbison Walker, NOE, telecom companies like KPN, MTN, Orange, service providers like JCI, and other asset-intensive companies like Consol Energy and Coronado, etc. This is a representative list. I don't obviously have all 150 here, but it's a product that's actually seeing a lot of acceptance. A solution that's seeing a lot of acceptance. All right. Now, what's next? Obviously, we've done a lot of work to get to this point, and we have some other interesting and exciting pathways forward as we build our roadmap and look to what we have to do. Again, I've categorized it in the context of planning and execution, customer engagement, and project finance. Let me go through a few of them briefly. In the planning and execution thing that you see, we're going to be starting to support project-based dropship. It's supported today, but we will actually enhance it to inherit the project attributes on the POs. Another big project would be having an ability to drive the material demand automatically by creating demand schedules from projects. You can do that today using the forecast load, but this will make it more automated. Also have an ability to initiate some supply chain transactions like requisitions and transfers directly from a project, right? Now, also is something that we are looking to do is a control center for a project manager, which kind of blends the operation and the financial data in one place. In the customer engagement space, project-based promising with GOP is something which is being planned. Project financials, which things like budgetary control. So a lot of industries do use budgetary control today, and whether it's an award-funded project or if it's just a commercial project, companies do want to execute against the budget and want to control it more tighter. In which case, they require that budgetary control be available for project-based inventory destination flows. That's something which is out on our roadmap. Again, all of this with a safe harbor. There's no time commitment yet on this, but we are planning on doing these projects. And then things like period close validations, where if you have open, let's say on-hand inventory of a project, and how do you validate all of those before you actually close the project out in Project Cloud? All right, now how do you get there? right? In our opinion, in Oracle, the goal is always more or less 100% of your systems in the Oracle cloud, right? But we also recognize that the path to that goal would differ based on the pressures you're under and your ability to execute that change. So we provide a choice, right? You can implement, as you can see here, specific supply chain edge solutions like OTM, transportation management, PLM, sourcing, or planning that complements your current capabilities and gain value from them, more importantly, right, before you get onto the enterprise on the cloud. Or you could pick a division and implement that completely. But again, thinking about implementation choices, things like chart of accounts, organization structure, your network design, so that your division can be a model for the future to move. Alternatively, if you think you can go all in, which is the end goal, you could do that as well. Now, our commitment to you, we will partner with you along the way and ensure that you're successful. With Oracle Cloud, you're ready for anything with a unified solution. So we believe it's the most complete cloud, both from a breadth as well as a technology perspective. Being an Oracle Cloud customer, you're going to be part of a very vibrant community of customers and partners that collaborate and share experiences. And as an Oracle customer, you can benefit from the guidance of a trusted innovation partner. And we offer innovation every quarter when we release our new products. Now, with that said, thank you. And I end this brief presentation. Please refer to the links on this page for more information. And I would really thank you for listening. And I look forward to hearing from you. Thank you again.